Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Laura Smith of Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Friday morning, November the 11th. And remember, it's day up here in Canada, U.S., the Veterans Day down in the States there. It's a holiday for me, but I'm up anyway. I got a lot to do today, so I figure no sleeping in for me. So I'm doing the show this morning, and this is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We'll be on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And I'm just putting the chat room up right now, and if anybody'd like to sit in there, that's great. Now we're looking at healing the inner child, really. That's mainly the work that I'm working on right now. And these last few weeks we've been looking at a website called Soul Expressions Abuse Recovery. And it's a pretty good website. There's lots of information there for people who, may have survived sexual abuse or child sexual abuse. Kind of, not that it's geared necessarily for women, but it seems to be more devoted to information for women. But it's a good website, and I think there's some good information on there. I'm interested in the inner child healing portion of it. So that's what we're going through and looking at. And so thanks, everybody, for being here. I appreciate everybody who's tuning in to all the archives and who's listening live and whatnot. And, I've done a lot of shows, like almost 850 shows so in the last 2 years. So I do appreciate people taking the time to listen and, to be with me on this healing journey, right? And so, you have to listen at your own discretion. I'm not a counselor or a therapist. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my shows here on Blog Talk Radio. So, you have to listen at your own discretion. Abuse topics can really bother people. It's a sensitive subject, and so, you need to know what's good for you to listen to. And if, you need to make that decision for yourself, whether these topics might trigger you or bother you. And so you need to listen at your own discretion, right? If it might bother you, you have to turn it off, right? And young children, anyone under the age of 18, I just ask you have permission to listen to my shows, because I don't know how young the people are who are listening to my shows. So if you're under 18 and under, have an adult listen to the show with you. Somebody who's older, who's an adult, who can listen to the show with you, and they can help you make a decision whether it's age appropriate, right? Because there is a lot of adult content and mature material on my shows, and so on all of my shows. So you need to listen at your own discretion, right? I put a discretionary warning on my show page because I believe in protecting children at all times, Like, you have the right to be protected, and as a child, as a young person under 18 and under, you have the right to be protected, and so you need to know how to keep yourself safe online. You need to know, how to protect yourself, right? So get that information. Just type into your browser, internet safety, online safety for children, things like this, and it'll take you to some websites, that have some great information. The FBI have a great one, FBI.gov. They have an awesome website and a whole section devoted to internet safety, so be sure and check it out, right? So we'll get right into this. We're looking at healing your inner child from Soul Expressions Abuse Recovery. That's www.soulexpressionsabuse.recovery.com. If you type into your browser Soul Expressions Abuse Recovery, it should come up. And it's some good information. Becky, the creator of this website, she's a therapist, a counselor. She's a survivor herself. So she knows, firsthand, right, what many survivors will have to deal with in their recovery, in their healing process, right? And so she talks a lot about her own stuff, too, and about her own story. But on the left-hand side of her website there, you can see that there's all kinds of information. She's really, she's done some great work on this website. It's an amazing website. And lots and lots of good stuff there. We're not going to look at it all. I just wanted to look to see what she had to say about inner child healing, because that's what I'm doing right now, working on my inner child and inner children, and really kind of one of the final stages of my healing process, really. It's amazing, really, the transformation that's taken place in the last couple of years for me. That's why I'm doing this show, because I want people to, I was hoping that it would help somebody else, out there who's a survivor and who's been on their healing journey and having a hard time, sort of to see, my process and how long it's taken me to do stuff, and that it doesn't necessarily happen overnight, that we have to get help, we have to reach out, and not if we're not doing well on our own, doing self-help or whatever, then we need to make sure we make the right decisions for ourselves and get some help, I'm not really on my own, like I was saying. I have some people who are helping me out, a couple of really good friends, but the thing is I don't, I'm not under the care of a physician or a therapist or a counselor, you know what I mean? And I made sort of a commitment to myself when I started my healing journey 4.5 years ago, that if I couldn't do it on my own, I would definitely seek professional help. Because, I deserve to heal. I never deserved to be abused in the first place. That realization came around. I mean, I knew that. I knew that for a long time. When I was being abused, I knew that. And, nobody does. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. And we deserve to get help. We deserve to have a good life. And so, if we're not proactive and we don't make these good decisions for ourselves, then really as adults, we're just perpetuating what we had to deal with as children because we're not allowing ourselves to get help. And that's not good. There's so many people who will do that for so many reasons. And, for me, it's a trust issue. I don't really trust because my parents were very, very psychologically, they were mentally ill. And they were paranoid, and they were busted on child abuse charges. And so they would tell us, you can't tell anyone about this because if you tell anyone what goes on in this home, they're just going to hurt you even more. See, my parents manipulated us so that we would never tell anybody about what happened to us. And so I grew up just believing that I couldn't trust anybody, even doctors. I couldn't trust anybody, right? And I couldn't trust them, that's for sure. But I couldn't trust anybody in the world. That's really how they brought us up. And so, with their own paranoid, delusional, insane stuff, right? So we were forced to be part of that, manipulated and really twisted, So none of us got any help. And two of my brothers killed themselves. One of my sisters was suicidal. She died of cancer, actually, at the age of 59, just turning 60. And she was just, people on the outside would say, oh, she had a wonderful life. But see, I know what was going on behind the scenes, and I know what was going on with her inside, you know what I mean? And she was not happy, and she never was happy. And she never was content with her life, and, that's what abuse will do to you, you know what I mean? So we deserve to get help. We deserve to have the opportunity, right? So whatever works for you, I got involved in some online group support, which was really great. That was, a few years ago, actually, probably more like about 3 years ago, where I got involved in some group support, and it was great to have people who can relate, to talk to and whatnot, right? So just make sure you get some help, whatever help that is that works for you, right? So we were looking at this inner child healing portion from Becky's website, Soul Expressions Abuse Recovery, and we're about halfway down through the page there where she's talking about nurturing our inner child, right? We've got to find out what our inner child needs, or needed at the time and didn't get ourselves from so long ago as children, right? And so we can meet some of those needs if we know what they are, But the main thing is to provide a sense of security, a sense of safety for ourselves to say, those abusers cannot, especially if we were abused as children and our abusers are no longer in our life, at least, and the memories and stuff and the flashbacks and whatnot are all coming from a place in the past, right? And we can work towards, that's what I'm doing, is working towards allowing myself to get in touch with my feelings from my childhood and allow myself to see that, hey, my abusers can no longer hurt me ever again. And that allows my inner self, my young, the parts of myself where I was stuck, as a child in these traumatic events, right? To know that, hey, no, that's true. They can't come back and hurt me ever again. And all I'm dealing with right now is the pain from the past. And, I can say that I've set myself up in a safe place, and that it's good. That at me, the adult, is in charge of things. I'm looking after things. And what that does is it almost creates to me, it seems like it creates like a connection, really, between the inner child. Because my inner child, I have quite a few inner children, actually. And I felt disconnected from them because I never really thought about going in to get in touch with them, but I knew that they were there. And so what I've done is set up a connection between us so that they know, and they're no longer panicking, stuck in that traumatic event where they were so long ago. There's now a connection to my inner self from so long ago that says, hey, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm not being abused right now. I have a great life. Really, actually, I do. I have a lot of good friends, and I can work. My health isn't the greatest. My physical health, but I'm sort of trying to change that. Trying to help myself too. And but I mean, I choose who I allow in my life, and I don't allow abusive people in my life, and I choose to make the right choices, right? And that's the thing. We have to make the right choices for ourselves as adults, right? And that's why we can't let our inner children make the choices for us, because my wounded inner child will push everybody away, right? And my wounded inner children will, they want to hide from the pain still. They want to, like I got off drugs when I was 21, which is great. But part of my inner self still says, we want to forget all this. We want to, these parts of myself that are wounded says, we don't want to face that. We'd rather be high. We'd rather be, so it's a constant battle for me. Really, it's not a battle, but it's a constant thing I got to keep in my mind all the time. Is that no, I'm facing this. I'm not hiding from it. I'm not running from it. I'm going to deal with it. But my wounded inner children, of course, they're used to sort of being allowed to run the bus and run my life. So a lot of my decisions I've made are based on fears and pain and wounding from childhood, right? And so that's why it's been really helpful for me to get in touch with my inner children to help to sort of say, you know what, you guys are no longer in charge of running my life. I'm the adult here, and I'm going to make the decisions I need to make. So what it does is it allows me to see where I need to work, which is trust and relationship type stuff, and asserting my own needs. Because when you're abused as a child, you're not getting your needs met, and if you say anything, you're likely to be abused. That was our problem. That's how I grew up. We weren't allowed to say, if we needed something, we weren't supposed to need anything, and if we did, we were beaten for it, or we were screamed at, or thrown out of the house, or whatever. So, me as an adult, if sometimes, I won't say what I need. I won't tell people what I need around me. And I just expect people to know, It's like, oh, they should just know what I need. And I said, this is not very realistic, that people are going to know what our needs are if we don't tell people what they are. So there's all kinds of stuff in relationships that I need to work on, because I did not see healthy relationships ever until I got away from until I grew up and got away from my abuser parents. I saw a couple of healthy relationships as a teenager, but the very formative years where, 0 to, let's say, even 12 or 11, where I started to realize that there were other people out there that were having these different relationships. All those years I just saw some very bizarre ways of behaving in relationships, and so I didn't get a good foundation on relationships of any type. Whether it's working relationships, personal family relationships, friends. So I've it's been a journey for me to try to do the right things, in relationships, because I had to do it on my own. Because sadly enough, I didn't go get help. See, in my 20s, I knew that I needed help. I was ready to kill myself. I was in the Grand Canyon at the age of 25, 26 years old, actually, and I was, people, that's, sadly enough, people do that. But I was thinking, hey, I could do that, and I was still thinking about, contemplating suicide and planning my suicides up until when I moved to Canada, when I was 40, how old was I? Turning 30, so 29. And then another 11 years later, at the age of 41, I was still planning my suicide. And I thought, okay, this has got to stop. I can't keep living like this, obviously this is a problem. I need help. Because 2 of my siblings killed themselves, so it's not like I was being naive about the whole thing. I mean, I knew what I was doing. And I thought, why am I doing it? I started to question it. I was like, why am I doing this? Why is, because I knew I was in a lot of pain, so I knew why. But I was like, why do I continue in this cycle? Why am I not getting help? You know what I mean? It's like, this is kind of ridiculous to keep this cycle of misery and pain and stuff going, right? Because I saw my family do that my whole life, right? So it sort of was just following along in their footsteps. And it just occurred to me, and I thought, that's ridiculous. I really need to get help. And there's no, I started to realize that, hey, the shame is not mine. There's no possible way it could be. I didn't do this to myself, you know what I mean? It belongs to the shame and the horror of all that really belongs to my abusers, who decided that it was okay for them to do what they did to me, and that's incredibly wrong. Now I got to pay the price for it and pick up the pieces, right? But unfortunately, that's what happens to abused children, and that's why I fight to stop child abuse, right? But the thing is, but if I don't pick up the pieces and I don't, do the healing work and whatnot as an adult, then clearly it's my choice. And I realized that the responsibility was mine, and I was like, whoa, it's my responsibility. Oh, my God, I'm going to have to do this. There's nobody else that can do this for me. I started to realize that this was all going to be up to me. And, it was all up to my brothers to not kill themselves, but they didn't make the right choices for themselves. It was all up to all of us who have suffered and lived with these kind of horrors to get help, right? But so many times we won't. And that's why, because these trust issues, these issues of, well, this was my life, this is what life is, and it's a comfort zone. It's like, well, this is what I know. That's what I knew as a child. That's why I didn't want to be removed from my home. I mean, I love my mom, especially my mom. I didn't really love my dad. I didn't care about my dad at all. But there was no bond there, period. But my mother, I was always trying to bond with her. And, internally, like, I knew that I missed out on something, and I needed her love. I needed her care. I needed something from her, other than abuse and garbage, and I didn't get it. And, so like that, it's incredibly hard, to then later on in life think, continue on in that path. And as an adult, not get our needs met. Like, that's ridiculous. So I thought, hey, why am I doing this? I'm following in my brother's footsteps. I'm just following in my family's footsteps, really, continuing on the behaviors of being a victim and being, not getting any help. And I thought, this is ridiculous. There's other people out there who are getting help, and they're getting whatever help they need. They're going to counselors, they're going to therapists, they're going to group support. So group support seemed to be the greatest thing for me, because I like the idea of safety in numbers. And I still have trust issues with people, but safety in numbers is good. And I'm just more comfortable in that kind of a setting, I think, unless I found somebody I could really, really trust, therapist or counselor or whatever. But I figured, no, I'll just do self-help, and then I'll just if I have to reach out and get professional help, then I will. If I'm not doing well and I'm not making progress and whatnot. But, man, I can see the progress that I've made just over the last couple of years has been amazing, because I had a lot of anger, a lot of rage, and a whole lot of rage, right, which was eating me up. It was tearing me up. It's hard on the body, it's hard on the mind, it's hard on the soul, it's hard on everybody around you, But I wasn't really raging at anybody else. It's just internalized rage, where I could feel this rage with the inner rage, And I knew that I didn't want to hurt anybody else, so I knew that it would hurt me. And that's why, I was in so much pain, and I was just like, my God, do I have to live with this my whole life, But I was still in that state of anger, extreme anger, which is okay. I needed to be angry about what happened to me as a child, and especially dealing these last 6 months or so with the CSA incest. I still haven't fully gotten appropriately angry about that. You know what I mean? I can see, that part of myself, especially my 10-year-old, who I was at 10 years old, was very angry, because I was just, that's what I was talking about yesterday. I just had too much abuse, and I was like, oh my God, just kill me. Somebody please kill me, take me out. Because I want out. This is horrible. You know what I mean? I had just experienced a couple of years of some horrific abuse, and actually my whole lifetime had been about abuse. But then, but when I was 8, I was sexually abused by my brother, and my mother didn't help me, and she continued to beat on me, and really beat me up quite regularly and pretty badly. And I was just, by the time I hit 10, I was like, I'm dead, I'm gone anyway, so just kill me, kill this flesh body, I don't care. I knew my spirit was gone. I knew that everything I had inside of me was to live and to be alive was dead, And that's really sad, when a child realizes that they're spiritually really dead, And that's where I was at the age of 10 years old. And so it took me a long, long time, really, to gain any kind of feeling of being alive, that I was actually, oh no, I'm not dead spiritually. I'm okay, I'm still alive, Well, my spiritual rebirth happened May 22nd, 2007. And I knew it because I could feel, so I don't talk a whole lot about this on this show, but I do on Sundays on my other show, Mount Bethel Christian Bible Study, but I don't mix the two, because I, as a survivor, had problems with God, being abused as a child. I was very angry with God, and I don't mix my my spirituality with my healing journey here on the show. But that's what happened. You know, I realized that hatred and all that pain and that horror was being pushed out by something so much better, that was something so much more wonderful, which was love and care, self-care, you know, self-worth, love for other people, you know, love for life started to come into my life again, because I really didn't even have that before the age of 10, because I was being abused the whole time, you know. So like it was such a difference to me, you know, to feel that, you know. So that's why I recognized it right away. And I was like, oh my God, and I cried and I cried. I cried for about 3 weeks on my couch by myself, you know, in the living room, just reading the Bible and watching TV and just watching, you know, Christian programming, because I'm a Christian, right? And you know, I used to hate Christians, and I wouldn't have read the Bible. There's no way, you know. But that's why I don't mix my stuff with my survivor journey, because I know so many people who will, you know, who cannot be in that place because they have so much anger and so much, you know, where were you, God, you know? And I mean, I do talk a whole lot about that on my Sunday show, because I was there. My dad was a Christian, and I hated him, you know. He would come home after church and trash his family, like verbally, physically, you know, just trash his family after coming home from church, you know, because we didn't go to church with him, because my mother was like, no, the kids aren't going with you, and so none of us would go to church with him. And so he would come home, and he'd be dressed in his white suit with his white shoes and looking all Christianly, you know, Mr. Spiffy Christian man. And then he would call my mother names and slap her around, you know, the whore, and none of these children are mine, and you're all evil from the devil. We'd have to listen to this every Sunday, like every Sunday. So you want to talk about being spiritually. This is when I was a small child, 5, 6 years old, 4, 5, 6 years old. Then he would beat my brothers up, you know. Then I would scream out, you know, like yelling at him to stop hitting my brother, especially my brother Rob, because that's who he liked to beat on. And then he would hit me, slap me around, choke me, you know, and throw me around. So I suffered a lot of physical abuse from him, from my dad mainly, from the time when I was a small child, and some as a teenager, you know, but mostly it was my mother who was my main abuser. But my dad was a Christian, and I thought, if he's a Christian, I don't want nothing to do with that. Yeah, no way, you know what I mean? Because the abuse on Sundays was horrific in my home. Even today, I don't do well on Sundays. Like, Sunday is a day that triggers me. It's my trigger day for the week. I don't appreciate Sundays, really, and Sunday to me is just a drag, because every Sunday was a hell in my home until I got old enough to get away, to actually go and do things on Sundays, like old enough to actually leave the house, and smart enough and wise enough to get out of there. But when I was a small child, I was just sort of stuck there in it, and I sort of, you know, every Sunday was a drag. Every Sunday was hell. And that's because my dad is psychologically ill. He's mentally ill. He's schizophrenic and everything else. But he's just got so many issues. He was diagnosed with several different mental illnesses, my mother as well. And the two of them created this horrible thing for us, this horrible existence, you know. And so I knew by the time I was 10 that I was spiritually dead, and that I was, anything that was alive inside of me from that point on was dead. So any little bit of light in life was gone, you know, and I was like, I'm just dead. I don't care. Kill me. So I started doing immense amounts of drugs and not looking after myself and doing a lot of sort of self-injurious stuff, hurting myself, wrecking my cars. I didn't care if I lived. It's not like I wanted to hurt anybody else, to be honest with you. I didn't have this. I wasn't on a mission to hurt other people. I knew what it was like to be hurt. So I was mainly on a mission to die this violent death that I thought I was probably going to die, you know. And I thought, well, if my parents don't take me out, then something else will, and if something else doesn't, then I will, you know. And so my parents, that's how my brothers were living too. So my parents set us up to live this life, right? They set us up for a life of hell, and that's why I titled my book "The Life of Death and Redemption," because really they set us up for a life of death and evil and horror, because that's the way they live their lives, and so they created this for us. And then we were supposed to like try to make sense of it and then, you know, do well in it under these circumstances. It's not going to happen. A child can't thrive in that. You can't even live in that. So I died, you know. I have written some poems and stuff about that. I just published my book, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another: The Journey. That's on Lulu as well, if anybody wants to get a hold of it. I'm actually going to be making a donation. I'm going to split the profits. I'm going to split 50% of the profits, and I'm going to keep the books on it, and do 25% to one charity, to one not-for-profit, 25% to another not-for-profit, because I really don't want to keep. I'm not writing. It's not for the money. It's not about the money. What I really wanted to do is get my story out there to be one more story, one more picture of what an abused child will go through, so that the public will first of all be able to see what we go through, what we've had to deal with, and how hard it is really to continue on and live. And so many people in society will snub survivors, look down on them, and, oh, they're just crazy, or look at those guys, what's the matter with them? Can't they pull them together? I mean, I've heard every number of things. And, yeah, even as a teenager, I heard all this, right? Because obviously I was a drug user, and I was, I was having problems, and I was having issues my whole life. So I've heard just about everything you can think of from the public side. Other people looking down on people who have been abused, or street people, or people, teens who are in trouble. I've heard every kind of thing you can think of, and I wrote my books because I want the public to know, just how incredibly hard it is for us survivors, and what we have to go through, and what we had to deal with as children. And I also write because I want to help survivors to realize that, hey, we're not alone, and that we can do it, and there's no reason why, without proper help and getting some help, whatever it is that we need, that we can do this. We can make it. We can survive. We can not only survive, but we can learn to love this life. We can learn to love ourselves. We can learn to love ourselves in this life, and others around us, and actually find some peace and some joy and some contentment, in this whole thing, right? And that's where, I was hoping to, to be able to reach survivors and to reach the public really with my work. So if anybody wants to pick up my books, that's very cool. And like I said, I'm going to put 25% away for one charity, 25% away to another one on an annual basis, because I think that makes good sense to me. And just use the rest of it to try to, keep my websites going and stuff, and keep my websites that I'm paying for, to keep them going, and my blog talk shows and whatnot. So, this is something that we can all do. We can all, get help. We can all, whatever it is, we can all find, as long as we keep looking, we can find it. Like she goes on to say that, healing your child is a spiritual experience, and it is about meeting your needs that you didn't get met as a child. So she says, what can you expect after this? She says, well, with me, I gave myself permission to be a child. I took time to go to the park and play on the swings. I started painting trees and woods with cabins and blue skies. My dreams changed. I could fly in my dreams. I laughed more. I made more friends. I took more chances. I went to Europe. I realized the possibilities were endless, and I hope that you do too. So she says, be a child. She says, I felt like my abuser stole my child away from me, so I took it back. It empowered me. It is never too late to take back your childhood and do it responsibly. Don't shirk your adult duties. Just add life to your life. Wow, that's awesome. That is just awesome, Yeah, that's the thing. I'm learning how to go back and be a child, because I never was a child. I was never an innocent child. I grew up watching my parents abuse each other, watching them abuse me and my other siblings. I never really had any innocence to me, right? And so even when I was playing, it wasn't really it wasn't normal child play, because I didn't have any normal child thoughts, right? And so what I'm trying to do is allow myself to go back and just be a child, you know what I mean? And allow myself to do these things like color, create creative projects and things like that. Just things like, making cards or whatever. And, a lot of stuff that I do as an adult is sort of like that, just creating websites and stuff, just trying to stay creative and allow my inner children to get in on some of that. So we need to allow ourselves to do these things, to enjoy life. If you want to color, color. If you want to do art, do art. If you want to sing, sing. Whatever it is, we need to allow ourselves to enjoy this life. You know what I mean? So many times we don't give ourselves permission to do that, right? And honestly, it is up to us to give ourselves permission to enjoy that, to enjoy what we used to maybe possibly enjoy, or to try something new for the first time, and allow ourselves to experience it and just have fun with it. and not put so much pressure on ourselves, you know what I mean? So thanks everybody for being here. I'll be here on the weekend, and Patrick Dottie's going to be on my show on Sunday. I hope that you will check that out. Patrick Dottie, he's a public speaker. He founded You and Me Can Stop Bullies. That's awesome. He's a survivor of rape, really, from when he was a child, from a scary serial killer, predator, and he survived, and thank God. And so Patrick Dottie is going to be on my show. He's an awesome guy, and I hope that you will come and check this out because he's got a lot to say, and his story is amazing. And he's a really, really nice guy. And so I hope you will tune in. That's on Sunday in the afternoon. So be sure and check my show page. And have a great day, everybody. Have a great weekend. Take good care of yourselves, You have to be the number one advocate in your life. You have to be the number one person that looks after you. We do. We have to be responsible for ourselves. I have to be the number one best advocate for myself. You know what I mean? And make sure that I get my needs met, like whatever it is, right? So, be sure and do that for yourself, right? Because that's where it all starts. It starts with us, right? We have to be good to ourselves, first of all. If we want others to be good to us, we have to be good to ourselves. And we should want that. Like, we should want to be good to ourselves, and not want to hurt ourselves. Like, we've already been hurt enough, right? That's why I got tired of that whole self-injury thing and self-sabotaging and trying to plan my suicides. I was like, man, I've had enough abuse already. Like, why am I still abusing myself? This is ridiculous. I'm just continuing on what my parents started and what my brother started. This is ridiculous, So we have to be our own best advocates and be good to ourselves and love ourselves and learn how to love ourselves, right? Very important, if you have done that work, to learn the self-worth and self-acknowledgement of who you are and that you do matter. You do count, just like everybody else. And you have the right to an abuse-free life. You have the right to the pursuit of happiness. You really do. But, man, it won't happen if you don't do it. So I realized that 4.5 years ago, so I said, okay, that's it, I'm doing it. So whatever you do, make sure you reach out. If you can't find somebody to talk to, you call a crisis line. You call somebody. You do not allow yourself to be destroyed by this, not ever. Just keep that in your mind, not ever. It's not an option, it's not a choice. Do not allow it, right? Because that lets the abusers win. And I refuse to let my abusers win this fight. No way. I've won already, actually, which is great. You know what I mean? That's my victory over my abusers. It's a slap in the face to them because of what they did to me. Shame on them, And so that's why I think it's so important to stick around. Do not allow yourself to be destroyed by this. And get some help where you can find it, And don't allow abusive people in your life, Keep some trustworthy people around. Good people who are going to look after you and make sure that you're okay, right? Don't allow abusive people into your life, right? They're just going to drag you down more. That's not good, right? We have to look out for ourselves, right? Take care and have a nice weekend, and I'll be back around on the weekend and stuff, and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.